Seraphim 17 once again. This is my Dark Souls 2 Crown of the Old Iron King DLC walkthrough. We're on the third installment. This is some post-game or post-DLC activities that you can get busy with. The first one is Sir Alonne. So Sir Alonne is a guy with a pretty good reputation because we've seen his army of knights that were inspired by him. So it gives you a pretty good example of what he's going to be. However, the section before him is kind of a nightmare, and it's one of those moments where running past it is only really viable if you know exactly how to do it, because there are these Dodongo bastards in the way. And I call them Dodongos because I don't know the real names. But they're essentially the creatures that fire fire that are in one part of Forest of Fallen Giants and nowhere else in the game. Well, they're back. But before we can get to Sir Alonne, we need a garrison key. And to get the garrison key, we have to go out onto a little snowy area that has, I think it's 3 of the smelter demon creatures. And hopefully I'm going to show you where to go to get to it. And I've left this in just so that you know exactly where the door is and we can get exactly back to where we need to be. So back at the bonfire that we started at, now we're going to go towards the garrison. And I actually thought I was going to like the snow DLC the most because I like snow. I like snow environments. I'm just kind of that way. I'm not entirely sure why, I just kind of do. And it's funny, I actually don't like that one all that much. That's my least favourite one, and my proclivities are towards snow, yet my taste when I played it couldn't have been any more contradictory. And this one, which I wasn't sure if this was the snow one, because as you can see it's very ashy in this place and it kind of looks a little bit like snow. Right now I'm in a bit of trouble because I picked up the wrong thing. The garrison key is the one to my left over in the corner. But instead I'm going to take a big hit to the chest right there from his chicken drumstick, and then we're going to run and pick up the key and we're going to get out of dodge, which I'll save the imminent beatdown that was about to take place there, and we'll just transition back to the bonfire. So now we have the key, we can progress upwards towards the set of armour that belongs to the person we're about to kill. And before we get there, there's going to be a very interesting Red Phantom. And the Red Phantoms in these DLCs are definitely some of the more interesting parts of it, but once again, because they are NPCs, they play by their own rules, and their own rules can sometimes be incredibly frustrating towards the player. Directly in front of me now there is a hidden door. Can you see the seam of it just there? So press A on that as the lift goes up and it'll open up, and there's a little secret in there if you didn't know. But this is what the tower... Oh, sorry, tower key, not garrison key. Garrison key is in the most recent one. But what happens is, you get invaded by a guy called Prowlers, I think his name is. And he's essentially the Berserker Blade Phantom from the Belfry Sol, Belfry Luna, I can't remember which one it is. And it's this fella. So, the first thing you need to be aware of is, to my left there is one of the Smelter Wedge. And I don't have any, so I have to run. Because I saved them all so that we could get rid of the healing fonts that the Fume Knight would have had. Look at that! I got stunned by a spawn. So weird. But the Prowler's greatest trick is that there's several of them, and the smaller ones are actually weaker than the main guy, but they're all pretty tricky and pretty dangerous. So what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to try and use this circular room against them, because the pathing on the AI is not so great, but you need to be aware that not only will they gangbang you if they can, but they also have bows, so if you're at a bad distance they'll shoot you with a bow. But we want to use the pillars to our advantage. We want to divide and conquer. And just take it slow, don't get too greedy. You know, don't run off headlong into the game, or it'll just bite back. Like, if there was no stamina bar, then you would be more than willing to get in there and start slashing away and you'd have no problems, but this is Dark Souls, and we have stamina, so we have to manage it. Estus Flasks don't matter so much at this point because we're about to hit a bonfire, so feel free to heal as much as you need to. This is just one of those invasions that when it happens it makes so little sense, you're just questioning what the hell's happening, because there's been nothing like this in the game. And the reason this exists, I believe, is so that you can get a free Berserker Blade without having to farm that annoying Phantom. And I've mentioned in a previous video that FromSoft have this tendency at this moment in time to give us the items that are a pain in the ass to farm instead of making the farming better, which I couldn't disagree with more. Because there's going to be people who haven't even played this game at this point and are going to pick up this game and have the same issues we've all been having since day one, which is the drops and the farming just doesn't work. It is far too low, even when you wear every single piece of drop equipment, and enemies have far too many drops so that you get countless amounts of shit you don't need while you go for shit you do want, and in the end you end up burning several ascetics, and you can make certain areas of your game world completely unplayable because of just how many ascetics you've burned. There are so many ways to fix it, but they just don't. So we have to assume it's as intended, which tells me a lot about the people who made the game. It also tells me they're not doing a lot of farming, because if they were, they probably wouldn't put up with it. But I'm going to show you here a nice path to clearing this room out. I'm going to use myself as bait to get the Alonne Knights on me so I can then hopefully punish them with my weapon. Because this is on new game, all of this looks kind of simple, but I can guarantee if you go any higher, it suddenly gets a little bit more interesting. And I'm saying interesting in kind of a disingenuous way. It's a little bit deceptive in my usage of it. Because it ain't more interesting, it's just a little bit more frustrating. And it brings me back to Bloodborne, which I've been watching. The boss in that demo, or in that alpha, sorry, can one-shot you, which is a really big thing. Getting one-shot in games is a thing, and I'm really surprised they chose to have that there. But the one thing you'll notice when you watch people play on any of those builds is that it's very squishy. But to balance this, they give you a lot of healing options. They give you a whole bunch of healing items. The healing items are as quick as a Divine Blessing or as a Grass from Demon Souls, so you heal super fast. They do half your life. They're hard to interrupt, but you die very quickly. And then there's the regain system, which a lot of people have been, not very complimentary of, but when you watch it in action, I think it looks perfectly fine. I think what they've got onto here is something really interesting. Be careful here. The environment is against you, as it always is, so you're going to hit walls and things, and if you go too far into that room, you're going to pull way too many of these knights, and the knights are incredibly dangerous. So that right there was dangerous too, but I managed to pull it off. There's me healing, getting on with things. Let's have a look. So this room has a bunch of archers on the back side, and if you go underneath it, there's a bunch of the Dodongo lizard guys. The chameleons, the geckos, what the hell are they? No idea. I'm sure somebody will let me know. But all of these have the potential to pull out great bows. Great bows, I don't need to tell you, do a lot of damage and a lot of knockback. No red phantoms though. There is a lot of red phantoms in this area on the cycles above new game. And they definitely change how the game plays. But use the pillars to your advantage. Be aware that the fire that creature spewing beneath us can hit you through the grating. Doesn't look like it probably will, but every so often he gets a real good shot in. And it's a multi-hitter too. So I've been two-pieced by the flame ball. And hopefully you'll avoid that, because it's a pretty disappointing run back. But here is the boss coming up. I know what you're thinking. It is a bit much before a boss that is as fast as this boss is, but it's just the way this game is. So, without further ado, this is Sir Alonne. A lot of people will tell you to bow at this guy and he'll nod, but I've bowed at him and he tried to attack me, so I don't recommend it. Here he is anyhow. The trick to this guy is the trick to most bosses. Up and to the right. If you get behind him, he has issue keeping up with you. Know this. That is a move that if he hits you with it will buff his sword. Whenever he puts his sword beneath him, at a distance, he's going to do a dashing attack that has variable speed and variable distance. Very tricky stuff. But if you keep behind him, here he goes, there's the dash. The easiest way to avoid that is to dash back. That way, if he doesn't have good range on it, you will move out of its range. If he does have good range, you should still move out of its range. It's kind of a win-win situation. If you want to dodge into it and be aggressive, it requires much preciser... That's not a good way of saying it. A more precise roll, which can get you hit, get you killed very easily. It's entirely up to you. This boss will never change as long as he doesn't hit you. The only difference he gets is when his life goes behind like the halfway threshold, he'll start to do an Artorias inspired jump attack. Or like a Flame Lurker inspired jump attack maybe. This is it. You'll see why I say Artorias before anything else, because it's very reminiscent, and it has just as terrible hit detection. So if you get pancaked by the echo of his shoelace, you know why. So be very careful of it. The cool thing about this guy is he doesn't have massive life. He's incredibly fair in how he fights, as long as you understand two things. Never heal unless he's in recovery animations, and never heal in front of him. Always do it from behind, or in a situation where he has to at least reorient himself to attack you. And also, when you think he's finished attacking, you better goddamn be sure he's finished attacking, because this guy can pull moves out of his ass and they're all quick. So manage that stamina, play intelligently, and if you kill him without, I think, taking damage or without healing or something, he does a seppuku. He will kill himself with the act of Harikiri. And if you want to see what that's like, I do in fact have a video of him being beaten with my bare fists on New Game Plus, I think it's 4, taking no damage. And it's a pretty fun video too. But that is the end of this. Thank you very much for watching. I hope the guide's helping, and you take care now.